So, do you remember back in elementary school or maybe even middle school, and the first time you heard the term order of operations? Maybe that's something you completely tuned out on and you don't remember, or maybe you do kind of remember what that means. If I'll take you back if you don't. It's just a simple way to order the types of mathematical problems that you had to solve when you had a series of multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Which order you put those operations in gave you the correct response. And if you didn't know the right order, your number would be off and you wouldn't get the problem right. Well, today we're going to be talking about something that I kind of think is similar to that, and it's the different types of retirement accounts that you can open up and contribute to and save in. And a lot of people are confused by all the letters and the numbers. What's a 401k? What's a 403b? What's an IRA? What do all those things mean? I'm going to try to walk you very simply through what those different types of accounts do, what their purpose are, and what the correct order is, because really you should know what each one of them do and probably most likely be invested in each one of those accounts. So stick around, let's learn something together. All right, so I've heard this question before. Is a 401k a good investment, or should I invest in a 401k? And when I hear that question, I immediately kind of can assume that person probably doesn't really fully understand what a 401k is and what the purpose of it is. So the types of retirement accounts we're going to be talking about today are a 401k or a 403b, and you can kind of put them in the same basket right now for this example. A traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and then just a traditional brokerage account. Those are kind of the four big buckets that we're going to be talking about today. And to go back to my earlier example, there's an order for which is the most tax efficient way to be able to invest your money. And let's just kind of start with what are the purposes of these types of accounts. A 401k, a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, those are not investments that are good or bad. You don't invest in them. You invest inside of them. They are a type of account you open up that you can buy and sell investments inside of. So there is really nothing inherently good or bad about the investments of those accounts. It's about the tax treatment of those accounts that makes them significant. So let's start with the most commonly known and maybe misunderstood, the 401k. What is the 401k? The 401k is an employee-sponsored retirement program that many employers offer you as a benefit of you working there. 401k is just the way the IRS treats that type of account. So if you open up a 401k through your employer, you are contributing pre-tax dollars into a retirement account. So you don't pay taxes on them, and so it will lower your adjusted gross income for the year, and you will owe less taxes each year. It's a really great thing. An even better thing is when the employer offers a match on that. So not only do you contribute pre-tax dollars, your employer matches maybe a portion or all of your contribution. So this is really a phenomenal avenue for you to be able to grow wealth and build for retirement. So a 401k, and then its cousin, a 403b, and it really behaves the same way as a 401k. It's just the way they designate that type of account for a nonprofit or for a school or a public entity. So they're really the same thing. That is kind of the first thing that most people understand and know about. So you put pre-tax dollars in, and then you pay taxes at retirement when you take money out of that. So you save money on the front end, and then you pay money on your distributions on the back end. So you're paying taxes on the growth, not the initial investment. So that's a great thing that we have here in America to be able to have tax advantage savings for retirement. The second type of account I'm going to talk about is a traditional IRA, or IRA is an individual retirement account. So this is something that anybody with an earned income can open up and contribute. And there are yearly maximums for how much you contribute. Right now it's $6,000 per individual. and then $12,000 collectively for a married couple, although you have to have individual accounts because it's an IRA, an individual retirement account. A traditional IRA is very similar to a 401k in that you can contribute pre-tax dollars each year up to that maximum into an IRA, and then you're going to owe taxes on the distributions from that at the age of retirement. Also, most 401ks have a limited amount of investments for you to pick from, maybe 4 or 5, versus an IRA has pretty much the entire gamut of stocks and bonds and indexes and mutual funds that you can invest into. So traditional IRA is a wonderful way for you to personally invest. And the other thing is it stays with you. So when you leave a job, you have to transfer or roll over that 401k to something that you possess because it's attached to your employer. An IRA is yours and your employer has nothing to do with it. So it always stays with you. So again, it's a great tax advantaged account that you can grow your wealth in. The third type of account is similar to an IRA, but it has an extra word attached to it. It's called a Roth IRA. And you've probably heard that name before or heard that term and wondered what that means. A Roth IRA is really wonderful because you don't get a tax benefit on the contribution. You contribute post-tax dollars into this account. But the growth of that account grows tax-free, and the distributions on that account are tax-free. So you pay your taxes like you normally would on your income, and then you turn around and contribute to a Roth IRA. Same limits as the traditional IRA, $6,000 per year per individual, and you have to have earned income to contribute to that. And then same distribution age and rules, except there are no required minimum distributions within a Roth IRA, so you don't even necessarily have to take your money out at the same time you would some of these other retirement accounts. And those funds grow, and then when you go to take the money out of that account, you don't pay any taxes on that. So we'll talk about why that's significant here in a minute. And then the final type of account I want to talk about today is a brokerage account. And a brokerage account is just a very simple account that is not earmarked for retirement, so there are no tax benefits for it. So if you open up a brokerage account and you put post-tax dollars into it, any sales that you make in that account are going to be taxed. So there's no tax benefit on the investment side, on the contribution side, and there are no tax benefits on the redemption side, except for the difference between long-term and short-term capital gains. And I'll talk about that in a future video, but look that up if you're not sure the difference between long-term and short-term capital gains. So those are the 4 types of accounts that you can open as an individual and you can manage. Now, what is the correct order? Well, it kind of depends on your situation. This video is primarily geared towards someone who's on the younger side of investing. So, and when I say younger side, I would say anybody under 40. If you're under 40, you really need to pay attention and understand this. If you're over 40, there are still some good principles, and you could still kind of do this in the order that I'm talking about, but depending on when you're going to retire and what your life expectancy is, it's going to look a little bit different for you potentially. But let's start at the basis. If your job is one that offers a matching 401k, that is the first thing you should be investing into up to that match. So, for example, if you work at a place and you get a 3% dollar for dollar match on your contributions, you should immediately, as soon as you can financially, start taking advantage of that and contributing 3% every year into that 401k in a good investment inside of that 401k. Why is that? Because it's pretty hard to beat getting 100% return on your money from day one. So I contribute $200 and my company matches $200. I get an instant $200 gain. That's 100%. And then those gains grow inside of that investment in the 401k. And so it's a great advantage. Plus, I get the tax break at the beginning of contributing it. And so my tax burden for that year goes down. So if there is a match, I would recommend you start there. If there's not a match, I'm actually going to recommend, if you're younger, that you start with a Roth IRA. Why is that? You don't get the tax break on the front end, but you're going to let that money sit in that account and grow and hopefully continue to contribute and dollar cost average and be able to see that pile grow and grow and grow. And then at the time of retirement or whenever you're ready to withdraw after that certain age, all of that money is going to be tax-free when you take it out. And there's some tremendous benefits to a Roth IRA that I don't even have time to go into that you can look into, or if you want to contact me, we can talk about that. But that is a wonderful wealth building tool, especially for someone who's starting out that's younger. So if you have a match, 401k is your first order. If you don't have a match, I would recommend you start with a Roth IRA. So let's continue to go down the example if you do have that match. You are going to contribute up to the match. So if it's 3%, contribute 3%. If it's 5%, contribute 5%. If your employer is very generous and it goes up to somewhere like even 10% or beyond, man, do that. Because again, you're going to be doubling that money every time you contribute, and you can't beat that. So do that up to the maximum of the match. And then once you've met your match, I want you to now move to a different type of account. Don't over contribute to that 401k or 403b over the match, because now we need to do some other things with those dollars. So after you meet your match, then I would move to a Roth IRA because of all the examples I mentioned before, why that's such a great account to have. Yeah, you're not going to get the tax break, like I said, but you are going to get a tremendous tax break on the growth. And if you're well invested and you're young and you do it regularly, you are going to have a lot more in your Roth IRA at retirement than obviously you will at the beginning. And more than likely, the value, the growth in your account is going to be many times larger than even the contributions, because of compound interest and what the power of continual residual investing into your Roth IRA. So that I'm going to encourage you to contribute up to the maximum of that $6,000 a year per individual into your Roth IRA. Now, once you've done your match in your 401k and you've maxed out your Roth IRA, any remaining dollars that you have and can invest, I would actually then go back to your 401k, because that usually has a much higher contribution limit. So yeah, you're not getting a match anymore, but you're still being able to contribute pre-tax dollars into that account, which is still a benefit other than just a traditional brokerage account. And you might ask, well, why wouldn't you just go to a traditional IRA then after a Roth IRA is maxed? Well, that's because the traditional and the Roth IRA have the same linked contribution limits. So you can only contribute up to $6,000 in either account for a given year. So if you contribute $6,000 in your Roth IRA, that leaves no money left over to be able to contribute to a traditional. If you do $3,000 into your Roth IRA, then you would have $3,000 that you can contribute to a traditional. They basically share with each other the same limits. So that's why you can't necessarily go from a maxed out Roth back to a traditional IRA. But if Roth is not something you're going to do, or you're not going to maximize that, then I would take advantage of the traditional IRA at that time and contribute to that. In this example, we're starting with the 401k up to the match, and then we're going to max out our Roth, and then any money left we're going to go back to and contribute to our 401k. If by chance you are now contributing the maximum amount in your 401k and you still have dollars that you would like to or be able to invest, then your really only option there is to go back to a brokerage account and invest in that. You're not going to get any sort of tax favored treatment there, but hey, it's still an opportunity to invest your money and you control it. So it's not a bad deal. So again, to recap, the order that I want you to focus on, especially if you're younger, is 401k or 403b up to the match. Then try to max out your Roth IRA for maximum tax free growth in that account. That's a key word, tax free, not tax deferred. And then after you've met that maximum, then head back to your 401k and try to get up to the maximum that you contribute there. And then anything past that, then you're going to be in a traditional brokerage account. Now, one thing I didn't mention is in order to participate in a Roth IRA, and IRAs in general, there are certain there are certain income limits that you may fall into that you might not be eligible for a Roth IRA. So you need to look into that. And if you can't, then that would be an opportunity again for you to look into a traditional IRA, or you might have to beef up that 401k, even past the match, and then a traditional brokerage account might be the best solution for you. So I know that's kind of complicated, but I hope I kind of give you a why behind why you want to look at investing in each one of these different accounts, these different types of accounts, and the purposes they can serve. Now, all this is complicated, I know. And it might be more than you want to be able to handle yourself. So I know I say this a lot, but I want to encourage you to consider talking to a financial professional, an investment advisor such as myself, to be able to work a plan and help explain to you why these types of accounts exist and why they could really benefit you. So work with somebody and get a plan going to invest. Again, the best time to invest is today. Don't wait another day, another week, another month, another year. You need time on your side in the game of retirement. So I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel to be notified when I create new content that can go directly to you. Leave me a comment. Let me know the questions you might have about these types of investments and these types of accounts. Maybe let me know what types of videos you'd like to see in the future. What questions do you have about retirement, about saving your money? And I will see you in the next video.